Look, I might just hand over to my colleague Gaia, who's going to tell you a little bit about our products with MLA. And after a few minutes, we'll get going into the webinar. But we just thought we'd let you know a little bit about what we offer. These are free courses, but I think you might find something interesting for us. Okay. So I'll let Gaia share her screen.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, here we go. Can you see it? Ok, perfetto. Ok, allora buonasera a tutti. Sono Gaia Villa, mi collego dall'ufficio di Milano. MLA ha due uffici, appunto uno a Milano e uno a Napoli, e dedicheremo giusto qualche minuto prima del corso di formazione un po' per presentarci e, come appunto diceva anche Josh, raccontare un pochino la nostra offerta. Come sapete, MLA è un'azienda leader nelle vacanze studio e lavora nel settore da ormai 45 anni e di fatto è riuscita a ottenere un sacco di riconoscimenti, tra cui proprio anche il riconoscimento del MIM, l'accreditamento MIM ex MIUR, che ci permette appunto di funzionare come ente di formazione. Tra i nostri servizi, ok, tra la nostra proposta chiaramente non possono mancare le vacanze studio. E come potete vedere da questo overview siamo disponibili, abbiamo programmi disponibili in tantissime destinazioni che vanno appunto dall'Inghilterra all'Irlanda, agli Stati Uniti, come anche il Canada, ma anche in destinazioni non anglofone come ad esempio la Spagna. Dunque i nostri pacchetti sono di fatto personalizzabili, sia per quanto riguarda la durata, si possono scegliere soggiorni da 8, 10, 14 ma anche 15 giorni, con la possibilità per alcune destinazioni di aggiungere anche un mini break nelle capitali di interesse. Dunque, al momento abbiamo pubblicato per quanto riguarda le vacanze studio estive un catalogo anteprima che tiene quindi tiene in considerazione alcune delle destinazioni della prossima estate, chiaramente con moltissimi vantaggi. Di fatto per prenotazioni entro il 6 di novembre e con il versamento solamente di 90 euro si avrà accesso a un corso di lingua prepartenza con docenti madrelingua in diretta live e inoltre si avrà accesso a il prezzo più basso di tutto l'anno. Come sappiamo, un po' per tutti i nostri viaggi, ma in generale i viaggi anche personali, più ci si avvicina alla data di partenza, chiaramente più il prezzo sale. In questa anteprima si ha anche la garanzia, come vantaggio, la garanzia zero pensieri a un prezzo solamente di 100 euro anziché di 250, che quindi ci dà appunto delle pedali agevolate in caso di annullamento. Inoltre sarà possibile, nel caso si avessero dei ripensamenti per quanto riguarda la propria destinazione, usufruire della garanzia salva acconto e quindi poter spostare il proprio versato verso un'altra destinazione entro il 20 di dicembre senza alcuna penale. Un altro dei nostri programmi tra i più importanti è sicuramente lo stage linguistico all'estero, che chiaramente MLA ha molto a cuore, così come sicuramente anche voi docenti. Si tratta di soggiorni all'estero organizzati in collaborazione con le scuole. Si tratta infatti di soggiorni di fatto ad hoc che sono personalizzabili non solo nelle destinazioni che vedete appunto adesso a schermo, ma anche appunto nella durata, per cui si possono svolgere soggiorni di 4, 5, 6, ma anche 10 giorni. E chiaramente anche questo progetto ha dei propri plus e dei propri vantaggi. Ci rapportiamo, collaboriamo con scuole altamente qualificate, possiamo portare avanti anche dei percorsi PCTO, la vecchia diciamo alternanza scuola-lavoro. C'è la possibilità di personalizzare il soggiorno usufruendo appunto, soggiornando presso famiglie selezionate direttamente da noi e c'è chiaramente la possibilità di aggiungere attività extra e avere anche assistenza MLA in loco per quanto riguarda i nostri stage plus. Un'altra cosa importante che ci fa piacere sottolineare è chiaramente la possibilità di far passare questo progetto sotto appunto il progetto PON e POR. Inoltre, molti insegnanti spesso ricevono anche degli interessi da parte appunto dei propri studenti del secondo, terzo, quarto anno per svolgere un soggiorno scolastico, per cui magari il trimestre, il semestre o addirittura l'anno in in un altro stato. Abbiamo una serie di destinazioni anche in questo caso, non per forza anglofone, per cui abbiamo ad esempio anche la Svezia, così come la Spagna, ma anche la Francia, in cui è possibile appunto svolgere questo tipo di programma. Chiaramente abbiamo delle agevolazioni anche per questo tipo di programma. Entro il 20 di dicembre sarà possibile usufruire di un corso di lingua online di 5 mesi e inoltre ci sarà uno sconto in moneta fino a 200 euro e si potrà usufruire della garanzia Zero Pensieri Plus scontata fino a 150 euro. Abbiamo inoltre l'ultimo progetto di cui diciamo di cui vi vogliamo parlare è Language Live, che è la nostra scuola di lingue online. Abbiamo appunto moltissimi docenti madrelingua o docenti certificati CELTA che si collegano da tutte le parti del mondo per raggiungere i nostri studenti nelle loro case. Si tratta non solo di corsi di lingua inglese, ma anche di lingua tedesca, francese e così via. E sono chiaramente dei corsi molto flessibili, proprio perché permette ai nostri studenti di partecipare ai dei corsi direttamente da casa, per cui risparmiando tempo e denaro. Il nostro reparto accademico si occupa della stesura del materiale didattico e questo chiaramente dà garanzia di progresso e giustamente ci sarà anche la possibilità poi di accedere a certificazioni appunto prestigiose e diciamo così avete un pochino un overview di quello che sono i nostri servizi, la nostra offerta e vi ringrazio per l'attenzione e vi auguro un buon corso di formazione.
Hey, thank you very much, Gaia.
Thanks, Gaia.
Thank you.
Let me just go back to our webinar. And we're going to be talking about this evening about autumn in the English classroom. Welcome if you've just joined us. And so we're going to be looking at a few things you can use in your classroom during the autumn period. So let's have a look. Just remember that you will receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout to be sent out tomorrow afternoon. If you don't get it by Monday, certainly send us an email at formazione@mlaworld.com. In that, you will also receive the handout, which will contain all the important information from this webinar, plus a lot of extra information too. And particularly for this webinar, I'm pretty sure we've got like a lot of worksheets there that you can just print off, photocopy and hand out to your students, and pre-made exercises that you can do and can fill up your classes with lots of really interesting activities on the theme of autumn and the events that happen during autumn, and a little bit of literature too. Autumn, as you know, is the season of falling leaves, going back to school, getting heavier, thicker, warmer clothes, and looking forward to Christmas. It's a very evocative season, and English teachers have a lot to draw upon to plan these inspiring lessons. In Britain, autumn is the season of Bonfire Night or Guy Fawkes Night, while in the in the USA, and I think also in Canada, Thanksgiving takes place. So these particular festivities can be used to educate students about English speaking culture. You know, when you're learning a language, you're like English, you're not just learning the culture of England, but cultures of all around the world in Anglo-Saxon countries and, countries where English is even spoken as a second language. Encouraging students to speak about their own traditions and activities that happen during autumn. Okay. Rebecca's going to be telling us a little bit about Diwali. Diwali, which is celebrated. I think it comes from India, I believe, but it's celebrated a lot in countries like the UK where there are big Indian populations, or English or Indian origin populations. Okay. Let us know in the chat what is your favorite aspect of autumn? And do you have any local traditions, some traditions that are in your town in this area, or maybe even just family traditions that you do? Hey, let us know in the chat. Chat's open. Um, I'll hand over to Rebecca to talk about the objectives of this lesson, of this session.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So by the end of this session, teachers will be better able to incorporate vocabulary and themes of autumn into their English lessons, arouse students' curiosity about foreign and also local traditions in order to encourage production of spoken and written English, and thanks to Josh, present literature on the theme of autumn in an interesting and engaging manner.
Yeah, we've often got requests for literature, so we try to put it in occasionally. We might dedicate a webinar soon on the theme of literature itself, but so far we're putting it in every now and then in the webinars. Okay? Simona said her favourite part of autumn is the foliage. Let us know where you are and where the foliage, where we should be watching it. I know I often go up to Abruzzo, and for around this time the mountains are changing colour. We're going to have a look at a bit of this vocabulary in this video. Autumn, or as they call it in the USA, fall, right, it's got a name for everything, has many associated words and expressions. Okay, let's look at this video, which we will pass you the link in the handout, and have a look at some vocabulary. Okay.
Hey,
Can you hear that?
I'm Alex. Thanks for clicking. And welcome to this lesson on fall vocabulary. I'm very excited today because fall is actually my favorite season. And today we're going to look at some words, some verbs, some nouns that we use when we talk about the fall and the different activities that happen during this season. So first, the top sentence says in fall or autumn, or in the fall, the autumn. When you're talking about seasons, you can use the article the or not. So you could say in the fall or in fall, in the autumn or in autumn. And again, fall or autumn, doesn't matter which one you use. Everyone will understand that you're talking about the season where things get colder, the leaves change color, etc. So speaking of leaves, here's a lovely Canadian maple leaf. The leaves in the fall, we can say, change color. They rustle. Now, if you're not familiar with the verb rustle, it refers to the sound that the leaves make when the wind blows through them. So when you have the leaves going like this, the leaves start rustling. So the leaves rustle in the trees. They make sounds like they're rubbing and crunching against each other. And again, we say the leaves fall off the trees. We don't really say they fall the trees or they fall down the trees. The most common expression, very useful, is just fall off the trees. So here you have the picture of a tree in the autumn or in the fall with the leaves on the ground. Now, in the fall, here are some things that you have to do. Number one, you have to bundle up. This is a phrasal verb that means you have to dress warmer. So you notice me today, I'm wearing a jacket, I have a scarf, I am bundled up a little bit more, okay? So to bundle up means to dress warmer. You also have to rake the leaves. If you are a homeowner, you have a house, and you have trees around your home, you might have to use a rake to rake the leaves, okay? Now, if you're lazy, or maybe just environmentally conscious a little bit more, you can also mulch the leaves. Now, to mulch means to cut them and make them into small little pieces. So to mulch the leaves, most lawn mowers are able to mulch leaves. So this is a lawn mower. I'll just write that word for you guys here. So one more time, you rake leaves with a rake. and you mulch leaves with a lawn mower. Okay. Talking about farmers in the fall, they reap the harvest. So the harvest is the full collection of fruit, vegetables, etc., that the farmers have grown. And now it's the fall. It's time to collect the food from the fields. So farmers reap the harvest. They collect it and take it and make sure that, you know, everything is used, and they take all the corn, all the other vegetables as well. Farmers also put scarecrows in their fields. So here is a picture of a scarecrow standing in a field like this. So this is a very common thing that farmers use to scare birds, right? So remember the word scarecrow. If you've seen the Batman movies, the scarecrow, there's the inspiration. And finally, in the fall, in the autumn, the temperature. If you want to talk about the temperature getting colder, you can say the temperature drops, the temperature goes down, the temperature falls. So it's all connected. We started with in the fall, we end with the temperature falling. Now, if you'd like to test your understanding of this vocabulary, as always, you can check out the quiz on ingvid.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you, everyone. Bye.
Okay, some useful vocabulary there. Just to test if you've been paying attention, let us know what you think. In the fall, the leaves fall from the trees. What is it? Fall from, fall down, or fall off? You can just put the number or the word fall and the word. And another thing, farmers use to frighten birds. What is it? Scarecrows, scary crows, scared crows, scarecrows, or Batman? Okay, not sure.
Oh, Mary's on it. Well done, Mary.
Okay, well, Mary's got them there. Okay, okay. So, okay. Well, Amelia, I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but anyway, I think the answers were okay. Fall from the trees. I guess you could fall off the trees. I guess it's possible. Okay. Fall down the trees. No. Okay. And then farmers use scarecrows. Number 4.
Number 4.
Okay. Scarecrows. Okay.
You could have a Batman scarecrow. That would be quite cool.
Could work, although I think that scarecrow is the enemy of Batman, isn't he? Okay.
I thought that was the Joker.
Okay. There's a few enemies. The Penguin too.
True.
Anyway, that's whole nother webinar. Okay. Anyway, Becky's going to take over a little to tell us about Bonfire Night.
Yes. So one of my favorite things about autumn, aside from my birthday, is Bonfire Night. And we have a poem to remind us a little bit about it. So remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. So this we're taught in primary school, and it just reminds us why we celebrate Bonfire Night. Obviously, there was a very important reason as to why the plot was plotted. And sometimes that gets lost in the translation of celebrating with fireworks, bonfires, and sparklers. And we've actually put the original version of the poem. So remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up king and parliament. 70 barrels were laid below to prove old England's overthrow. By God's mercy he was catched with a dark lantern and lighted match. Holla boys, let the bells ring. Holla boys, God save the king.
Okay.
So there are some things in there that where English language has evolved.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, don't
you notice
worry.
anything.
Okay. So you might notice that catched is no longer used in English. Okay.
No.
I don't know whether it was. Maybe it was a variant.
Possibly.
It still is by some of my
By some people. Yeah. And so we've also prepared for your students a listening comprehension worksheet, which is in the handout. And we have a short video to accompany the worksheet, which I think we're going to watch now, aren't we, Josh?
Let's have a look.
November brings fires and fireworks. Sometimes you will hear people say, "Remember, remember the 5th of November." They are talking about Guy Fawkes Night. The story of Guy Fawkes Night begins in 1605. At that time, James I was King of England. But some people did not want him to be king because they followed a different religion from James. So a group of them, a man called Guy Fawkes and his friends, made a plot to kill King James and his government at the Houses of Parliament in London on the 5th of November, 1605. They put 36 boxes of gunpowder in a room underneath the Houses of Parliament because they wanted to kill a lot of people. But the plan did not work. The king's soldiers found Guy Fawkes and the gunpowder. They sent him to prison in January 1606. Guy Fawkes and some of his friends were killed in front of the Houses of Parliament. When people heard that the plotters were dead, they celebrated with lots of fires in the streets. King James was alive and well. Since that time, every year on the 5th of November in most parts of Britain, people build a big fire outside with all the dead leaves and old pieces of wood that they do not want. Children push newspaper into old clothes to make something that looks like a man. They call it a guy, after Guy Fawkes. And sometimes they carry the guy around the streets to show people. They say, "Penny for the guy," and ask people for money for fireworks. Some people have a bonfire with fireworks in their garden, but fireworks are expensive, so often people have one big party together in a park or a field. It is usually very cold in November, so they have hot food and drinks to keep warm.
Okay, nice little video that you can use. Becky's made up some worksheets there. Sorry, I'll let you.
There are also some debate questions which you could use for our higher level students. And an interesting fact, it is said that Guy Fawkes was from York, which is not too far from where I live. And if anybody ever goes, there is a pub in which he famously had a beer.
Ugh.
I can't remember the name right now, but if you walk around York, you'll see it. It's near York Minster.
Okay, right. Well, that's not the one he tried to blow up, though, is it?
No, he did not try to blow that one up. No.
Oh, God. Okay. Anyway, let's continue on. Sorry, hang on just a moment. Just missing part. Okay, so let us know in the chat what you know about Thanksgiving. Okay, do you have information about it? Actually, I'm not sure. Are you doing this part, Becky? I can't remember.
No, this is you. I'm next.
This is I beg your pardon. Okay. So let us know in the chat what you know about Thanksgiving, why Americans and Canadians celebrate it. Okay. When are the celebrations? Okay. Is there a better way than to celebrate than with all these sort of foods you can spot? So some of the foods there, you'll see some of them are a little bit unusual to our taste, to Italian tastes, or even my Australian tastes. Okay. So let us know when it is. In your
The
opinion.
fourth Thursday of November.
Yeah, I believe that.
Ellen and Delilah say.
Okay. Yep. We've made, or Becky's made, a reading exercise along with a quiz. Okay, so we're not going to go through all the reading, but it's in the handout, and you're going to be able to look at the origins and the contemporary traditions of Thanksgiving Day, and how it's celebrated, why it's celebrated, and the foods. Okay, I think Mary's got it there. Okay, so it's the Pilgrim Fathers in New England celebrated the first harvest after sitting. Okay, and I believe they shared a meal with the Native Americans.
They did, yeah, to thank them.
Maybe a few diseases too. Okay.
Hopefully not.
Okay.
But look, there's pumpkin pie.
Yeah, this is something I've always been curious about. Pumpkin pie with like marshmallows on top. Okay.
Yes, that's what Carson loves.
Yeah.
Oh no, something else. It's not pumpkin pie. He likes something else with marshmallows on top.
Okay.
We'll have to ask him next month.
Was it yams, wasn't it? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, very typical to the Americas.
Yeah, but anyway, one good thing you could also ask students is maybe they could say what they're thankful for. Okay. Yeah, turkey too. So I think turkey and pumpkin particularly because they're, as far as I know, they're new.
Plentiful.
They're from the New World, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let us know in the chat what you are thankful for. Okay? What you give thanks to. Okay? Or for, I should say. I'll hand over to Becky now.
Okay. So there is also another lesser known festival which does take place in autumn, which is Diwali. As Josh mentioned before, it did originate in India. However, in many big cities in the UK, for example, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, the festival is celebrated because there's a large population of Indian descendants, so on. And what they do is they put street lights out, like in the photo at the bottom, similar to the ones that we have at Christmas. So it therefore includes everyone. Now, does anybody know which religion celebrates Diwali?
Let us know in
if
the
you
chat.
know, tell us in the chat.
So we're going to have a look at a video, and we've made a worksheet that could be used in next little lesson. Okay, so looking at religion or civics or even just some other, even in English.
Anything else? Indian people, Hinduism, well done.
Very good, yes. Okay. Let's have a look at this video.
All over the world are celebrating the festival of Diwali. It's also known as the Festival of Light and sees families gather together to celebrate with fireworks and special meals. Here's everything you need to know. Diwali is a festival that usually lasts 5 days and is celebrated by millions of Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains from all over the world. The date Diwali starts is different each year. This is because it follows the pattern of the moon in the Hindu calendar, but usually it's held around mid-October to mid-November. There are several stories that describe the reason why Diwali is celebrated, but here are the general ones from each corner of India. In the north, it's common to hear about the return of the god Lord Rama by lighting diyas, which are small candles made with oil. In the west, the start of the new year in the Hindu calendar is celebrated, which means worshipping Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth. In the east, prayers are given to the goddess Kali to recognize her strength after she defeated the 2 demons causing havoc on earth. In the south of India, Diwali is known as the festival Naraka Chaturdashi, which celebrates the god Lord Krishna's victory over the wicked king Narakasura. And don't forget, Sikhs, Jains, and even some Buddhists celebrate Diwali in their own way too. But the overall message is the same. Diwali is the victory of good over evil and light over darkness. And there you have it, all you need to know about the festival of Diwali. And you can find out loads more about the festival over on the Newsround website.
Okay, nice thing there. And we've got some worksheets to look at there.
So there's just a short listening comprehension that you can use, and for older students, maybe you could have a debate or a class discussion about the meaning of the festival. So obviously the victory of good over evil and light over dark.
Nice.
And this year, Diwali is celebrated on the 13th of November.
Yeah, nice. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
That's my memory.
Okay, and just to finish up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a poem that I really like, and a poet, one of my favorite poets, John Keats. Okay, As you can see there, he was the youngest of the second generation of Romantic poets. So after we have in the first generation, we generally count Wordsworth and Coleridge, sometimes Blake as well. And then in the second, we have Byron, Shelley, and Keats, who are born in that order, but died in the other order. Okay, so Keats died first, followed by Shelley, and then Byron last of all. Okay, even though they weren't so much associated, although Byron and Shelley were friends, Keats was counted amongst them because the sort of his style and his outlook were very similar. Okay. Oops, sorry. He's best known for his odes, which he wrote in 1819, a year before his death. He died in Rome in the famous house that you can see if you're looking at the Spanish Steps from the bottom. It's on the right there, which is now a museum for Keats and Shelley. Shelley, obviously, also Shelley and Keats both buried in the non-Catholic cemetery in Rome. Not far from, in fact, just almost under the shadow of the pyramid. Don't know if you know, Rebecca, there's a pyramid also in Rome. Okay?
Yeah, Pyramide. I lived in Rome for a bit. So.
Okay. And just right next to there is where he's buried, because he went out to Italy to escape, to try to find a cure for tuberculosis. Okay, but unfortunately he died. Okay. The last and possibly the greatest of what are known as his great odes of these was Autumn, or To Autumn. It's not actually called Ode to Autumn, but it's just called To Autumn. And many, including myself, consider it one of the most perfect poems in the English language. It's certainly something that some of Keats' other poems have some weaknesses in it, whereas this one I really think it's beautiful the whole way through. We're going to listen to it. I wouldn't dare read it for you, although I do like reading it to myself. Okay, so we're going to have it on the page, and then we're going to listen to it. When we talk about the odes, we're generally talking about a poem that addresses an object. So in this, instead of just describing autumn itself, he's personified autumn. Okay? In fact, I think the second stanza he talks about describes autumn. Okay? You might know Ode on a Grecian Urn, which is quite commonly taught in high schools. Anyway, I'll let the video do the talking.
To Autumn. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run, to bend with apples the mossed cottage trees, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the core, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with a sweet kernel, to set budding more and still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has o'erbrimmed their clammy cells. Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind, or on a half-reaped furrow sound asleep, drowsed with the fume of poppies, while thy hook spares the next swathe and all its twined flowers. And sometimes, like a gleaner, thou dost keep steady thy laden head across a brook, or by a cider press, with patient look, thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them. Thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue, then in a wailful choir the small gnats mourn among the river sallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. and full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne. Hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft the red-breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the sky.
Okay, it is very much a poem that I would encourage you to read aloud. Sometimes you're hearing these sort of sounds, for example, hedge crickets even imitates the sound they make, and then redbreast whistles, swallows twitter, lambs bleat. So we've got all these onomatopoeic sounds in there. Okay? But it really is one of those things where it's almost, in my opinion, you can almost sort of taste this poem when you read it. Okay? It's really a sort of sensual experience. Okay, looking at it more closely, you can actually see that the poem describes three aspects of autumn in its three stanzas. It's fruitfulness, that is, it's the season of the harvest. Okay, it's labor, obviously involving the work, but also the rest, and then also the decline, the fact that the leaves are falling. The swallows are moving on to warmer climates. Okay? Each stanza describes also a part of a day, so the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, while at the same time they're depicting the progression. So the first stanza is talking generally about early autumn, the season of when the fruits are becoming ripe, whereas the mid-autumn, it's talking about the after the harvest is completed, while as late autumn in the last stanza, it's really talking about the movement towards winter and the animals getting ready for the harsher winter. Okay? In the second stanza, we have a good case of personification, where autumn itself is actually a figure of autumn, seated, restful, or watching. Largely motionless activities. There's a sort of sense of fulfillment that the harvest is done, all the food's prepared, it's time to rest, okay, following summer's bounty. And some people have seen in the poem an implication of Keats' impending death. In this period, he was still in Britain. I think he wrote it after he'd gone for a walk around Winchester, or outside of Winchester. But his mother and brother had already died of tuberculosis, as he mentioned it as the family disease, and he was already tending to his. He had tended to his brother in his last months, less than a year before the poem's composition. This is, he died at 25, so a lot crammed into his 25 years. It's a real pity that he didn't live longer, because his last poems are his greatest. If he had lived longer, a lot of people think he could have been on the level of Shakespeare. Okay, is it that he's longing for a peaceful death? This is a theme of Ode to a Nightingale, which is another great poem, one of the great odes, probably my second favorite. And as autumn fades into winter, this is a theme that he's talking about, the fading into death. Okay? As I mentioned before, the real joy of the poem is its imagery and its sound. I think it's, as I said, it really uses these sonorous aspects of English, onomatopoeic, but even sort of just the oozing sounds and things like this to evoke the ripeness and bounty. As I said, it's not good enough just to listen to it today, but I really urge you to actually, when you get the handout, or even before you get the handout, look at the poem and read it aloud and feel it in your mouth. Okay. Anyway, that brings us to our conclusion. Okay, as autumn itself brings it to a conclusion. We saw in the recent webinar that autumn is a time of going back to school. Okay, as we did the back to school webinar. So it's really a vital moment to engage students' imaginations and interest in order to set a productive tone for the school year. It's not too late to do that. Okay, I think we've still got the opportunity to get students engaged. It is arguably, in some people's opinion, okay, the prettiest time of the year in many parts of the world. Okay, vocabulary about landscapes and the natural world can be the focus of lessons during autumn. The fact of change, the colours, the landscapes, they're very evocative. So it might be a good time to talk about that. Okay? And there are many other works of literature that could be used. Think of Shakespeare's Sonnet 73, that time of year thou mayest in me behold. So he's talking about he's in the autumn of his life, and he likens it to, you know, the leaves falling. Okay? I wouldn't say a typical Shakespeare sonnet, but it's a sonnet that has carries a lot of the themes, the sort of self-reflexivity that he's talking about himself and the poetry itself. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. Okay, Shelley and Keats were in contact, and Shelley wrote one of his greatest poems about Keats after he died. Adonis, and that was actually written in the woods near Florence. And Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, a poem that actually is very common, but very commonly read. I would say very misunderstood. Okay? It sometimes seen as a poem to talk about doing your own individual thing, whereas I think probably, if you look at it closely, a bit more maybe sarcastic and about how we justify our choices in retrospect. Okay? If you read it carefully, it doesn't really encourage you to take your own road as much as it's saying that whatever road we end up on, we tend to justify the fact that it was the best choice. But anyway, that can be saved for another webinar. I'd love to talk about Robert Frost in the future. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining us. If you've got any suggestions for future topics, please let us know. We're always on the lookout. We've got some great ideas coming up, and coming up to the end of the year, we're looking at some special guests coming in as well. Let us know in the chat, or you can always email us. On that note, thanks a lot for your attention, and you will, as I said at the beginning, you will receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout. There's a lot of worksheets, a lot of activities. I really encourage you to check your email for these, and you have a lot of material that you can use in the lessons. Next Thursday, we're going to be talking about interaction patterns. That is the interaction forms that you can use, pair work, group work, activities in classes. It's always a great way to think about how you're going to plan your activities. Okay. Thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks particularly to Becky, who prepared a lot of this webinar.
You're very welcome.
Okay. And I'd really hope to see you next week. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a lovely
Bye,
autumn
bye.
if I don't see you before.
Have a good autumn. Okay. Bye, bye, bye.